Hi April, thanks for coming down and having this little interview in the Guild of Students today.
Pleasure.
What direction do you want to lead Aberystwyth within over the next few years and over your time here?
Well, I think the first thing to say is that this isn't just about an individual coming in and everything's different. And I've been having some meetings for staff recently. In fact, that's one of the reasons I wanted to do this, to talk to students as well. And one of the things I've been saying there is that we've got to look at continuity as well as change. And part of what I'm here to do is to make sure that we try and preserve and protect what's really good about Aberystwyth as a university, as a place. Not just to make changes, certainly not change for change's sake. But if you asked me about the priorities, it's about protecting the student experience and making that even better. It's about making sure that we still have the right mix of courses, both for undergraduates and postgraduates, and we keep developing that. And actually, this university's been really good at that, bringing in new subjects like psychology and sports science, criminology over the last few years, but also to push on employability, because we don't do so well. We do really well in the student experience, but we don't do very well in employability. And then to increase the number of postgraduates and the number of international students that we have here. So those would be my priorities for now.
Cool.
Fel eithaf o ddiwylliant Celtaidd ei hunan, rwy'n siŵr bod chi'n gwerthfawrogi pwysigrwydd diogelwch mamiaeth. Felly, beth yw'ch safbwynt chi ar yr iaith Gymraeg o fewn y brifysgol?
Dwi'n hefyd yn dod o wlad yr Alban sy'n falch o hetifeddiaeth ddiwylliannol. Dwi'n gwybod pa mor bwysig yw yr iaith Gymraeg i Gymru a i Brifysgol Aberystwyth. Mae diwylliant dwyieithog bwysig iawn o fewn y Brifysgol. Os ydy'r iaith Gymraeg yn bwysig, mae dysgwyr yn holl bwysig. Mae ieithoedd bach eisiau dysgwyr. Diolch I chi.
Obviously, we're down here in the Guild of Students today. What do you believe that is the role of the Guild of Students in Aberystwyth University, and how do you think that's going to expand over the next few years?
Well, that's kind of you asking me the question backwards that you asked me first. Yes, it should be about what your direction is for the Guild. Having said that, I think it's incredibly important that you should feel that you're both working closely with the senior team in the university, but you're also suitably independent to be able to make the points that you need to make, because we're not always going to agree on exactly what the right way forward is. But I'd hope we'd get to a point where we've been working reasonably close together, and you and the colleagues in the Guild who are working with you can actually find an agreed way forward on issues. At least we can understand and respect each other's points of view if it comes to that. What does the Guild do? Well, it's partly representational, as I would understand it. You know, you're here to represent the student body, which is already an odd thing to say, because it's as many different, groups as you've got people almost. But also just to make sure as we go into this new era where some of the students are going to be really affected by the new fee, that we make sure that the Guild is there to get proper information out to students rather than disinformation, because there's a bit of that around in the media about the new fee regime. And also, really, you're here to hold the university to account, to make sure that we're delivering what we say we're going to deliver, to make sure that that what we sign up to is actually also something that the students would want to see. And as I say, where we do have minor disagreements, I hope about all of that we can find an agreed way through, and you can help us in communicating that to not just students but to external constituencies as well.
Yeah.
A byddech chi yn bersonol yn cefnogi a blaenoriaethu llais y Cymru Cymraeg wrth I ddyluniau'r pantocelau newydd datblygu ymhellach dros y cyfnod nesaf?
Mae hi'n gynnar eto, ond mae llais y myfyrwyr yn bwysig iawn. Mae rhaid I ni gydweithio yn agost gydag urdd y myfyrwyr eleni, a mae cyfarfod miso rhwng ni. Wrth gwrs, mae rhaid i ni wrando o lais y myfyrwyr Cymraeg yng nghyswllt Pantycelyn.
We've got a few students moving into bunks this weekend and next weekend, and obviously over the past few years Aberystwyth has had quite a big problem with admissions and accommodations. Obviously you want to stop this as soon as possible. It's just wondering how you want to go about stopping that and solving the problem.
Well, it depends. You talk about problem and you talk about stopping things. You show me the people coming this week and next week who don't deserve to be here. Yeah. Who would you want us not to have admitted? And you know, I have, we've all been speaking to students, we've been speaking to parents, we've been speaking to the press over the last couple of weeks about the accommodation issue. I haven't heard anybody pushing back, saying to me, oh, you know, there are students coming here who don't deserve their place. I think what we need to be concentrating on is giving the best possible experience to the students who have earned their place here. What do I mean by that? Well, we set a particular point score that students had to attain to come. We turned down 12,000 people last year. We have got nobody coming who didn't absolutely make the terms of their offer. So we're in a contract with those individuals. You know, if they make their offer, then this is where they have the right to come. Now, you might well say, well, could have set the points higher. That's something we need to look at with departments. You might well say, well, what are you going to do in terms of the accommodation to improve that situation? And I opened a hall of residence yesterday. You know, there is a long-term strategy to bring more accommodation on stream. Just been talking with Tammy about, you know, Pantycelyn Newydd. I mean, there wouldn't be plans for a new Pantycelyn if we didn't have quite well advanced plans for a new student village. Yeah. And that's about 1,000 new rooms. Now, okay, some of that would be to replace accommodation that might be coming to the end of its useful life, but nonetheless, it's a lot of extra. So I don't see it as a problem. Would you ideally aim to overshoot on your numbers? No, you wouldn't, because that isn't necessarily, you've got planning processes in place. But when people have earned the right to come, and it is a big year because everybody's performing out of their skin so that they're not in the new fee regime next year if they're going to be affected by that, then I think, you know, we need to take the consequences of that. And my priority was, let's get as many students as possible housed in halls of residence with the right facilities on the campus or near the campus with other students, rather than looking at accommodation options, which I know some institutions are doing, which would see students being much further away and not in halls of residence type accommodation.
Obviously, higher education and the higher education landscape is quite turbulent at the moment, what with the new 9K fees coming in. What's your political stance, not in a party political way, but your stance on the higher education landscape as a whole throughout the UK, but including Aber?
Oh, that's not a big question at all, actually, is it? If you think about it in terms of the fee first, it does seem to me that it's highly likely that students will still understand that there is a lasting value to doing a degree. And it's not just about you're going to earn more money when you go, but that's part of it. But also, you know, you're not going to be paying back spectacularly more in the new system than you would be in the old system. And you'll have seen the modelling that seems to suggest that unless you're earning about £45,000 from the minute you graduate right through your career, you're not going to pay back any more than you do with the fee as it stands at the moment. So even for students who are affected, I think it's up to us to keep saying there is a graduate premium. You will do better on the average through your working life if you have a degree. And if you don't, for instance, because you choose to do further study or to work in a sector where the pay is going to be reasonably low, or to have caring responsibilities for part of your career time, well, you're not going to pay back for those periods at all. So I think it's up to us to keep talking about the benefits, and they're not just economic. It's about developing people's full potential.
Yeah.
It's about teaching people how to bring out their qualities and actually to construct an argument. And actually, do you know what? It's fun. It's a brilliant part. You know, I look back on my time as a student, I wouldn't have missed it for the world. Turning back to the politics, where do I think the risks are? I think the risks are for universities that don't have a really clear identity and they don't really know what they stand for. And we want to work with the Guild over the next year to start thinking about the strategic plan for the next period. Our strategic plan was written about 2008. No document in higher education that was written then would actually stand up now. So we really want to look forward and to say, right, what do we want Aberystwyth to do? What do we want it to be? How do we want to take the university forward? And that's not about one individual. It's about the vision for the whole community. So I think politically, I don't want us to be one of those universities, and I'm sure you don't, that doesn't have a clear identity and therefore kind of loses its way. Because when you're in a market, people need to know what they're buying. So I look forward to working with you on that over the next few months.
Yeah, definitely.